Multiple hours, no, after. I told you what I, sorry guys. Because I lied to you. Because I told you, I think this is all I had to tell you about the full bridge. No, it's not, it was not, I forgot one point. And one point is, let's consider the full bridge. Oops, inductor. Here we put our RS because I am going for full bridge current mode. Do we need a compensation ramp? Current mode can require compensation ramp if the cycle is
greater than
not greater,
lower than
a few greater, larger, wider than 50%. Do we have the cycle larger than 50% in a full bridge? Yes, because what is important is the bulk of the cycle. And we decided the bulk of the cycle to be as large as possible, as practically possible. So we need, for sure, a compensation ramp, guaranteed. And you know the compensation ramp must have slope is V naught over L or V naught over 2L, depends what you want to get, what is your duty cycle, the range, etc. And this has this V naught over 2L or V naught over L as the dimension of current over time, amps per microsecond. And this is this ramp. You measure over here, so you have to move this compensation ramp to the primary winding if the current goes down, and through the possibly the current swap. So you need the compensation ramp. And the compensation ramp, when you evaluate like this and you move it back to this turn ratio, those are amps per microsecond typically as a units. And when you move here, amps go down. When you move here, amps go down even more. And you can find out how much is the slope, the voltage slope you need to add to voltage over here. Okay, there is one advantage using a transformer, a small advantage, but why not? Your IRS current that flows over here, we already saw is something like this. It's a standard input waveform for a converter, very high duty cycle because we are measuring it. Remember that what you have on the primary side is not only the secondary current moved to the primary side, but there is also on top of it the magnetizing current. And the magnetizing current is something like this. Goes up, starts from negative because there's a negative from the previous cycle, goes up, and then here the same story, opposite the sign, but we rectified it using this section of measurement. So we have that your magnetizing current is something like this. Remember, magnetizing current is something like this, centered around 0. But if we measure at this point, basically all the negative pulses become positive, so we get something like this. This magnetizing current adds up to the primary current, and so we get the top waveform is slightly more steep, slightly more ramping up fast. And this is basically a compensation ramp. It works like a compensation ramp because it's a current added to the measured current. This ramp is not enough to compensate the system. You have any way to add a compensation ramp, but the magnetizing current helps. So even if you reject it, it gives you a help. It's not going to the opposite direction. If it was going to the opposite direction, it was just subtracting and you design a system to be stable, you discover it's not stable. But this is helping you stability. So staying with the current sense, on the primary side, also we get this small advantage of compensation ramp given by a half the compensation ramp given by the magnetizing inductance. You cannot use it for compensation. Compensation ramp has to be added in any case, but this helps at least goes into the right direction. Okay, let's consider the multiple output for both derived converters. What I'm telling you now applies both to full bridge, forward, and the other topologies that we will see further on. Do you still remember how a forward converter is on the output side? It was something like this, wasn't it? And do you still remember how that's for sure. A full bridge converter is on the output side. You have a full wave, a double wave rectifier like center tap or left bridge. And you have here your output. What if you want to have another output, a second output? In a Schneider converter, adding a second output was a piece of cake. Just add one winding, one diode, one capacitor, and everything is okay. Not only, but if you take the feedback from one output, all other outputs are quite well regulated because all other outputs share the same magnetic flux, so the turn ratio gives you basically the output voltages. Here the story is slightly more complicated because if we want a second output from a forward converter, yes, we have to, as expected, to add a secondary winding. Then we need to add two diodes, ouch, okay. And then we need to add one inductor, ouch. This costs, this hurts because this is a magnetic component, it's heavy, it's costly, takes volume, and another. That's a very unpleasant situation because it costs a lot, especially for this second magnetic component. Not only, but the characteristics of regulation of this stuff are really bad. It's a lousy circuit because if you take your output from here, you have that this first output voltage is well regulated, stays constant, and it's what you want. But here you have nothing. You have no regulation because if you have a load that changes at this point, what happens is that this LC could start, and it could quite frequently, I mean, it can happen, start to resonate, and you change the load over here, your output voltage starts to resonate. Because this point does not see the feedback point. If you change the load on this output, what happens is this load change must propagate back to the inductor, must propagate back to the other output, must propagate back over here, and then eventually the feedback says, oh, something is going wrong, let's correct it. But this is basically an open loop, low-pass filter, and this is not very much that. The Q of this factor could be a few units. It means that if you change the load, here starts to resonate. Okay, don't change the load very fast, change it slowly, 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 so you don't excite any response. Let's suppose that your load here goes down, becomes lighter, lighter, and lighter. What happens if in a power converter, if the load becomes more and more light? It goes to DCM. That means that this inductor goes to DCM, but this does not go to DCM. So the duty cycle stays the same because this converter is still working at the same output voltage, same current. But if this inductor goes to DCM, output voltage of this buck, does it increase or decrease? Or stay constant? Increases. The output voltage increases because we have a constant duty cycle because we want to keep the V. We are keeping V, not one constant. So constant duty cycle, this is still CCM, this goes to DCM, and if it goes to DCM, its output voltage goes up. Uncontrolled, very uncontrolled. What if, on the other hand, is this voltage going down, this load going down, becoming light? If this voltage goes down and this output goes DCM, the controller keeps it, you saw it in the lab, keeps it constant voltage. Even if it is DCM, even if the controller is not the best one, it still keeps the output voltage constant. But to get a constant output voltage over here, it reduces the duty cycle. And if it reduces the duty cycle and this is still CCM, the output voltage over here is going down. That is a very nice. It's basically a not usable solution. Cost, performances, clearly that. Do we trash it? No, because in many cases we need multiple output but derived converters. And so, the solution is this one. It is exactly the same solution for both forward and full bridge press bridge or one set of rectifiers. We need two output voltages or three output voltages, and there are cases like this. It's full. The world is full of these cases. Well, and S1 and S2, I won't prove this equation, but if we want the two output, one has twice as much voltage as the other one, just put a secondary, another secondary winding twice as much turns as the first one. Then you put here the two diodes. And here was a very great idea that solved a lot of problems altogether. And the very great idea is, instead of having here a second inductor, let's use the same inductor here. And so, let's put a second winding on this inductor, and then we go back to our output VO2. And the turn ratio here, NL1 over NL2, the turn ratio of these two windings must be exactly the same as the turn ratio of the two output voltages as the ratio of the two output currents. Give me one huge advantage of this solution. Only one inductor, only one connector. It's true, it's a two-winding inductor, coupled inductor, but it's only one piece of, I would say, junk. No, it's not junk. Piece of iron. That is a big advantage. We still keep the feedback from one output only, most of the time. But this time, if the load changes over here, this load change goes immediately via this transformer. This is another double, but also acts as a transformer. Goes immediately to tell something to the output where the feedback is taken from. And so the dynamic behavior, the coupling dynamic behavior is better in this case. Do we still have the problems of the DCM, CCM? Yes, we still have those. Because the flux here is unique. So the flux never go if the flux goes to zero, all the system is DCM. But we can have that one output current can be very low, the other one can still be nominal or high, and if this output current is low, it would try to go backwards. So you can still have one point going DCM because current tries to go backwards and there are these two diodes. So there is still this possibility of having one DCM, one CCM, but it's not so bad. It's bad, but not so bad as before, either because the flux over here, flux over time, is unique. It's only one. And this flux, remember, phi equals L times I. This flux ripple reflects into a current ripple. Well, you can do the so-called current ripple steering. It means that your flux goes up and down. That's normal. It's usual for any buck converter. Flux going up and down means that you have a current, or a totality of current, because you have different currents over here. You have all those currents in some way must carry this flux, this up and down flux, so you will have ripple, current ripple in these windings. But you can steer the ripple on the output you want. You can say, okay, this is an output that has the maximum load. The load will be, over here will always be high. The load here could become very low. The load here is, I don't say constant, but it will always be there. So you can steer the ripple, tell the ripple, oh, go to this capacitor, go over here, current ripple. So you will never fall into DCM, this winding. The other winding is a very small ripple current on it, and so it will have it will have problems to go DCM because the ripple is small. The output current must be very, very low before it goes into DCM. This current steering, ripple steering, is obtained changing the impedance in these two mesh, these two loops. Here is one, here is two. If you can change the impedance for the ripple at the ripple frequency in these two loops, you can steer the ripple to go on one side on the other side. You put an extra impedance on this mesh, and the ripple will go to the other side. The side where you have a higher current, so you want, or more constant current, and so you won't have DCM problems. Okay, you have to put, let's say, I want to steer the ripple on this output, on this capacitor. I have to put an impedance on this loop. Any impedance. Can we put a resistor in this loop? Not a good idea because a resistor dissipates and makes voltage drop. Can we put a capacitor in this loop? Because capacitor is an impedance.
No. We block the DC.
We block the DC, so that is not just a bad idea, that is a terrible idea. And so what are we left with? Inductor. So we can put here a small inductor, not coupled with this one, but this is not a huge component, it's just a small ring core with a few turns on it, and this forces the ripple to go to the other side. It makes the cross regulation a little bit worse, but at least you have the ripple on this side. This one go DCM because the output load here is constant or very high, and here where the voltage, the current can become smaller and so it risks to go to DCM. The ripple is very low, so the DCM is very, just at the very last moment. In multiple outputs, Buckley-like converters, you find in many cases one big transformer, one big inductor with all the windings to the different outputs of the same piece of the same core, and sometimes you see small ring cores, toroidi, in series to one secondary winding or the other one, just to make this ripple steering. I think next week I will arrive with my part of hardware showing you. Okay? Do you want the good news? In your final exam, you will never be asked to design multiple output derived. It's not difficult. You should know how to do it, but I don't have time to do it in class. It's not a question to ask in an exam, and so if you have to design it, it's not difficult, because you can, thinking about it, you can design it. It takes a few hours, you can do it, but not now. Okay. This Friday, lecture. Next Tuesday, lecture or discussion. Because we still have two topologies to go through. Why did we move from forward converter to full bridge converter? What was the basic idea to go to leave to abandon the balloon of the forward converter and to move to the full bridge? What's the reason?
The reset of the magnetic core.
We wanted to reset the magnetic core without wasting the time that we needed to reset the magnetic core. So we said, instead of waiting for the flyback effect to reset the magnetic core, we can force the input voltage to be reversed. So at the same time, we reset the magnetic core and we use the transformer also to transfer power. We discovered that this has some minor drawback, because if the reset is not exactly precise, we have the flux runaway. But put a capacitor in series or use current model to solve the problem. There are more solutions using a full-time transformer, and so requiring a double pulse, two-pulse full wave rectifier on the output. There are more topologies like this that have advantages with respect to the full bridge. Full bridge has a big disadvantage. 4 switches. Full bridge has a big disadvantage. 2 switches in series to the input voltage. So for low voltage, full bridge is not the best idea. For low power, full bridge is a waste of money. But there are other ideas like this. Let's consider, for example, this example, this circuit. Let's start with VA. This time, it's the first time that they put a VA explicitly with a battery. And let's suppose that we have, in some way, here a voltage. Don't ask me where it's coming from, because you listed the axle. That is VA over 2. So we have 2 voltages, VA and VA over 2. Or if we moved our reference, we could say we have VA over 2 over here, we have 0 volts, and we have negative VA over 2. Probably this is easier to see. But we will start from this situation. If we have VA over 2 and negative VA over 2, and the 0, center 0, and we want to supply the primary of my transformer with an AC voltage, positive and negative, well, that is easy. It's easy because what I can do is I just connect one end of the transformer to the 0, to the central voltage, and then with 2 switches, 1, 2, and only, not 4 switches as before, with 2 switches, I go to the other side of the transformer. So when I close the switch, what voltage do I get on the primary winding? V over 2. And when I close the second switch, what voltage do I get on the primary winding? Negative V over 2. Advantage of this solution? Only 2 switches. Well, one is let's discuss this after. Disadvantages of this solution. 2 big disadvantages.
I need to
First, we need a symmetrical supply. In rare cases, there are symmetrical supplies available, but it's not absolutely not common. And the second disadvantage is that the primary voltage is only 1/2 of our total voltage. So we have to consider this fact when we determine the turn ratio of our transformer. I don't remember if I really met in my professional life a situation like this when I had two voltages. I don't think so. I don't remember to have. Maybe, not so sure. Just forget about this. This is our situation, our actual situation. We have only one input voltage that is V in, and we need to make an intermediate, midway voltage between V and 0, and so it's exactly what we had before. We connect one side of the transformer here, and the other side of the transformer with two switches, either to V in or 0. The problem is, how can we obtain a voltage that is 1/2 of the input voltage? We have to divide the input voltage by 2. So, we can
You can use a voltage divider.
voltage divider, sure.
To lose,
Don't tell me something like, let's use an op-amp with a gain of -0.5 or something like this, or whatever you want, because op-amps there, no way. Here there are amps we are dealing with. So, voltage divider, a good old-style passive voltage divider. What components can we use to make a voltage divider? Resistors. We can put here two equal resistors. We get the easy V equal to 2, and at the same time we invent electric heating. Because if we put here a primary transformer, here there is a lot of current flowing forth and back. And if you want to keep this voltage at V equal to 2, these two resistors must be low value, lot of current flowing through them. And we have invented electric heating, electric kettles, boilers, whatever you want, but no way to make not even a reasonable one, but anything that would look like power supply. Bad idea. No. Give me a second component.
capacitor. Capacitor.
And what about inductors? If we put here two inductors, does it work?
No.
Well,
There is a DC.
there is a wonderful short circuit. We don't invent here electric heating. We invent here fireworks. This is even worse than before. So, what are we left with? Capacitor. They want to open. So, can we put two capacitors in series, two equal capacitors, obviously? This is C and this is C. Is it a voltage divider? At least it has the advantage of not wasting power, not blowing up the circuit.
But in DC V over 2 is floating.
V over 2 is
Floating is not.
exploding. There is no DC connection to this point. Isn't it a big deal? Let's see. Let me just redraw this circuit. We try to make a voltage divider with two capacitors, two equal capacitors. We have here the primary winding of our transformer. We put two switches for the other end of these this primary. This is Vp. That is what we are coming out with. This symbol is not correct. This jumper is not correct. When you have two wires crossing like this, it means there is no connection. If two wires are crossing and you want to indicate a connection, you have to put a dot. So the jumper like this is not used. Should not be used in the schematics. I use it over here just to emphasize that there is no connection over here. But in the real schematics, you will never find that jumper. It's not allowed anymore. Let's work. You had suspicions that the two capacitor in series give you floating node over here. You had the idea that you have no DC connection to the rest of the world. Does it work this? Yes, it works. It works because it is exactly the same story. You didn't complain about it when I told you, in a full bridge. Let's put the capacitor in series with the input, the primary winding. This capacitor will absorb any imbalance that we have over here. It's exactly the same story. If we drive these two switches exactly 50% and everything is symmetrical, this point will go, even if the two capacitors are not exactly the same value, this point will go exactly at 1/2 of the input voltage, because over here there is no DC current from it. Let's suppose that our driving of these two switches is not exact, it's not perfectly timed. One pulse is a little bit wider, one is a little bit narrower. What happens? It happens that the average voltage applied to this point is not being over 2. It will be a little bit larger or a little bit lower. And if it is a little bit larger or a little bit lower, what happens is that this voltage imbalance will be absorbed by these two capacitors. Why not? That's okay. Let's consider the voltage over here. VA. Let's call this node A. When you close the first switch S1, the voltage over here will be reflected because this is the voltage. Will be V. So we have here V in. And during the next T on, when you close the second switch, the voltage over here will be 0. Zero and V. And when the switches are both open, what voltage do we have over here? When the switches are both open, this is just a piece of wire. The secondary side will be probably short circuit because diodes are conducting. And so we'll have here the V central. That would be something like that. Okay. What is the primary voltage? Primary voltage is just exactly this same waveform shifted down by Vc. And so the primary voltage Vp will be will be this one. And hopefully this area will be this area. What if it's not true? Because the two switches are not exactly the same, the two timings, on times are not exactly the same. Well, let's suppose that this is a little bit long. If S1 closes for a little bit longer time, it means that you will have an extra current moving to the center of this node. And if you have an extra current going to charge a capacitor, the voltage of this capacitor will increase. So if S1 has a duty cycle that is slightly larger than S2, this voltage won't be at 1/2 of the input voltage. It will go a little bit higher. Because these two capacitors we have solved exactly as before the imbalance of these two systems. Half bridge has the advantage of having only two switches, but the primary voltage is only 1/2 of the input voltage, and you need these two capacitors. Long time ago, and still now, two capacitors probably had a cost that was less than two switches. And remember, the fact that having here as a primary voltage only V in over 2 requires that you change the turn ratio. And if you change the turn ratio to get the same output voltage, what you get is that you change also the current ratio. And we will see in a moment what happens. Okay? So far so good? Let's see what is the output voltage versus the input voltage in this circuit. Let's put here. I am looking for V0 over V in this circuit because it's what I needed to design the transformer. V0 is equal to, this is from this point on, buck converter. And so the output of buck converter working in DCM is equal to D, duty cycle, times this voltage. D times V secondary minus D, because both the duality of the resorption is diagonal series. So this is my equation. This is an ideal buck converter, and I subtract DD because the always have the diagonal series to the output. How much is V secondary? V0 should be equal to V times, how much is V secondary? Will be V primary times Ns over Np minus Vd. That is equal, V0 is equal to D times, how much is the primary voltage? It's V over 2 V in over 2 minus the voltage drop on this switch or on this switch, because you have always one switch connected to the primary when we close. When we close the switch, you have V over 2 minus this switch. When we open the switch, energy is coming from the capacitors, and we have V over 2 minus the switch again. So, V in minus this switch, V over 2, sorry, minus this switch, because this switch is there, no matter what, times Ns over Np times Vd. Oh, we have only one switch in series. How many diodes do we have in series to the output? It depends on what rectifier we are using. If we are using a center tap rectifier, it's 1. If we are using a full bridge rectifier, it's 2. This case is number of diodes times Vd. Didn't we already see an equation like this? It's very similar to the equation for the full bridge. In a full bridge, the structure was still the same. This is a minus. In a full bridge, the structure was still the same. What did we have different over there? Well, still minus Vd or minus 2Vd was the same, because we have the same kind of rectifiers. And S over V was the same. What changed was this factor was not there, because in a full bridge we apply the full input voltage to the primary. Here we apply only 1/2 of it. And here, in a full bridge, there was a coefficient that was 2 number of switches in series. Here we have only one, over there we have 2 switches. But the equation is still the same. Do you remember when I derived the equation, I said, let's put here a coefficient here in front of this switch. Let's put the coefficient here because it depends on the rectifier. And let's put, I don't remember if I put the coefficient over here as well. But it's still the same story. Is there any difference in deriving this equation from what I did for deriving the full bridge equation? You just remember how I derived the full bridge equation. In the full bridge equation, I started from the input and I went to the output. I moved to the output. I'm looking for what everything I was finding in my path. Here, I started from the output and I moved back to the input. Is there any difference? Absolutely not. You can choose the way you want. You can start from the output and move backwards, or work it backwards towards the input, or you can start from the input and go to the output. I wanted to give you both solutions. Probably here you have to write 3 or 4 lines. In the other case, you start writing down initially just this stuff. But it's exactly the same. What can we derive from this equation? Ns over Np. Ns over Np equals, and when we derive Ns over Np, we have to fix the Ignis variable, we have to fix the Ignis variable, and we can put here Vmax, the minimum, Ns over Np is equal to V0 minus Vd, and if you want to put here the number of diodes, that's okay, divided by Vin over 2 minus V minimum minus V switch. I forgot a D somewhere. And this is divided by D max.
There is also a plus in the numerator. In the numerator, there is a plus also. Your plus number of times.
The numerator maybe instead of minus
is a plus.
Oh yes. Who wrote here a minus? Any idea who wrote a minus over there? No. It was me, maybe. Still the smoking gun in my hand. Okay, V0 plus number of VD, obviously, because you are losing output voltage with diodes, so you need to increase the ratio, divided by this stuff. Oh, oops. Have a doubt. Have a question. These 2 capacitors will absorb pulses going into and coming out from them. So the voltage over here will go up and down, centered around Vin over 2, but there will be some ripple over here. Is it a big deal? Do we have to consider this ripple in this equation? These 2 capacitors are exactly, absolutely identical to the capacitor in series to the primary winding in a full bridge converter. Did we have to consider the voltage drop over here? No, because this change in voltage across this capacitor adds and subtracts, and it never has no effect on the system. So, even if we have here a voltage ripple going up and down the waveform, and it is centered around Vin or 2, even if we have this voltage over here, nothing changes, because during T-on, that is this phase, during T-on, the voltage, the primary voltage will start higher than what we expect, higher than Vin over 2, and will become lower than Vin over 2. But in average we have V over 2 as well. And this is a low-pass filter. Low-pass filter passes the average value. So these two capacitors don't change this equation.
We can add also a C in parallel with V, because these two capacitors maybe can be.
Do we still have to add this capacitor? Yes, sure. Why? Because these two capacitors, what do you want to say?
No, I want to say because without seeing the two capacitors have two functions. One or to be in series with the primary winding, and the other two is to stabilize the in. But the in is the series, so two capacitors, so it's the output part of capacitor.
Yeah, you had a good starting idea, but the number, if you put numbers in your idea, you see that it's not a big deal. These two capacitors, let's discuss in a moment. It takes 5 minutes of discussion. Okay, this stuff, so far so good? Good. We have NS over NP. Do you know how to find the stresses over here? Yes, standard stuff. Just observe one more. The NS over NP in a half, this is called half bridge, by the way. In a half bridge, NS over NP, this is just an evaluation, quick and dirty evaluation to see what's going on, is equal to V naught over V in over 2 times V. Just to have a first idea. This is for a half bridge. In a full bridge, the NS over NP is equal to what? It's the same equation, same kind of equation. So it will be something like V naught divided by the only difference in a full bridge is that here we have the X, not V over 2. V in times D. What's the difference in NS over NP? Same input voltage, same output voltage, going from full bridge to half bridge. The turn ratio is 1/2. You need less input turns, less primary turns, because you have less voltage. In a half bridge, NS over NP is twice as much as in a full bridge, with the same input and output voltage. It means that if you have a given output current, I naught, the input current through the primary in a full half bridge will be twice as much as in a half bridge, in a full bridge. I repeat myself because I screwed up with indications. In a half bridge, NS over NP is twice as much with respect to a full bridge. In a half bridge, the input current, the primary current, is twice as much as in a full bridge because the voltage is just 1/2. You have to deliver the same power, so the input current of the primary of a half bridge will be twice as much. Less turns, but less voltage, but twice double current. Okay? That's good. And you can find all the switches. Let's just remove one possible error from this design. Do we control it voltage mode or current mode? Can we control it in current mode? No way. Absolutely forbidden. Why? Because this topology intrinsically has a capacitor in series to the input. And so if we put capacitor and current mode, we end up that this voltage will go down to 0 or to positive, and the system will work very badly. So this is voltage mode only. No way to use current mode. Actually, there is a way to use current mode. There is something that I never use. It's slightly complicated. You have to add an auxiliary winding over here and let's go to see the input capacitors, because I told you, let's make C and C. Do we still have to put a capacitor right here? Let's see. It's still a full half reach, that one. Yes, sure. I just draw it in a different way. What is the CP, the capacitance in series to the primary winding in this circuit? And let's consider that we put this large capacitor.